India is a very big country with lots and lots of people speaking many languages. And we are proud to show our culture and vibrancy. But these diverse people call a small piece of land or a small room their home. Imagine this. You are staying in a bustling part of the city, surrounded by people in places packed with different housing units. Children shouting and playing on one side, and others screaming on the top of on top of their voice on the other side. And finally, chaos emerges as a silent story, which is called the clash of neighbours. This sort of living is inevitable, and disagreements cannot be stopped among neighbours. Hello, this is Jerry, your host, and welcome to the video where we are going to discuss the thin line between living together and conflicts that arise among neighbours. Usually, conflicts do take place between neighbours, but when it goes beyond a threshold, one has no other option to file a complaint against one's neighbour. Welcome to my video, and today's topic we are going to discuss on what are the things to be done if you're harassed by your neighbour. So let's get started. In this video we are going to discuss 1. What is harassment and some examples of it. 2. What section does one need to file a complaint if your neighbour is playing loud music or creating a nuisance. 3. In case your neighbour is causing harm to your property, how do you deal with that issue? 4. If you see a property being trespassed or you're being insulted or intimidated in your own property, then how would you deal with such people? 5. Should your neighbour sexually harass people in your household? What would be your next course of action? 6. Finally, if your neighbour has parked his car within an apartment in a common premise and it has been broken down and unused for many years, what is the course of action? I have tried my best to cover many scenarios where people would have faced issues with neighbours, and I'm also having a funny quote for this. My neighbour loved my taste of music. They even call the police to listen to it. So let's get into the topic and watch or listen to the entire video how this story or the music is going to be played. Well, before we begin to gather more information about this topic, I wanted to say that the information provided in this video is only for information purposes and should not be considered as a legal advice. I recommend that you approach a lawyer in your jurisdiction to help you out. The first question is, what is harassment and what are some examples of it? Harassment is the persistent or aggressive behavior or action of a person targeted to cause distress, intimidation or harm to another person. These actions are targeted towards a person's race, gender or religion. However, these sort of actions can take place anywhere, including our neighborhood. Some examples of harassment would be threats, causing a nuisance to a person, who is also called stalking, spread of rumors, unwanted physical contact, etc. Now, you would have to understand what is harassment. It would be better to understand the applicable laws should a person be harassed under the Penal Code. Section 503. This section relates to criminal intimidation. It is where a person is threatened with physical harm or damage to the property, which is intended to cause alarm to the person. Section 506. This explains the punishment for a person who commits an act of criminal intimidation, which the punishment would extend to 2 years or a fine or both. This is for basic threats. But with serious threats of killing or injuring a person or falsely accusing a woman of inappropriate behavior, then the punishment would be severe, in which a person could be jailed for 7 years or fined or both. Section 509. If any person insults a woman by saying something vulgar or makes any sound or action which is vulgar, such a person can be punished with a simple imprisonment for 3 or more years with a fine or both. The second question is, what section does one need to apply to file a complaint if a neighbor is playing loud music or creating a nuisance? If there are more than 10 decibels of sound in the place where you reside, this is called noise pollution. Suppose this sort of pollution happens between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Then a person is free to file a complaint with the following authorities. Firstly, by calling the police or by registering your complaint online. This sort of public nuisance is a crime under section 268 of the Indian Penal Code. Second, one can approach the state and central pollution control board. The PCB has a power to accept complaints and pass orders to stop any sort of noise pollution. I have provided a link in the description that can help you visit the respective state PCB, which can help you to lodge or guide you in filing a complaint. 3. With the help of a lawyer, you can approach the district magistrate and place a complaint about noise pollution. The court has the power to stop such nuisance or noise pollution. Finally, one can approach the National Green Tribunal to complain. You can call the number in India during the weekdays and they can guide you with the issue of noise pollution. I have also provided this link in the description below for your reference. The third question is, in case your neighbor is causing harm to your property, how do you deal with this issue? Usually, this happens when a neighbor starts to do some construction work or like building a wall or digging a borewell. As he constructs, he damages your property, and for this damage, you have the right to demand compensation. You can initiate the process by, firstly, you will be required to file a suit of injunction and prevent the neighbor from constructing further, and simultaneously inform the police about this issue. Secondly, in the same suit, one can claim for damages. Third, if your neighbor does not compensate you, you can file a complaint under section 425 of the Indian Penal Code. So, section 425 is if a person knowingly causes damage to another person's property or public property, that person willfully commits mischief. This punishment for mischief is imprisonment for 10 years with a fine. As a word of precaution, please ensure not to damage his property or the other person's property in an act of revenge. Then the tables will turn onto you. The fourth question is, if you see your property being trespassed or you have been insulted or intimidated in your own property, then how would you deal with such people? In case your neighbor enters into your property with an intent to intimidate, insult or cause offense to your property, then you can file a complaint under section 441 of the Indian Penal Code. Section 441 it states that any person who enters into the other person's property intending to insult or intimidate that person has committed criminal trespass. If the trespass is regarding a property issue, the remedy would be to approach the court for an injunction order and damages that person has caused while trespassing into the property. To prove this in front of the judge, the affected person should firstly have all the legal documents belonging to the property to show that the affected person is the rightful owner of the property. Second, the affected person should have constructed a wall or a barricade along with a signboard stating that this property belongs to that ex-person or that person. Despite doing all these procedures, that I have mentioned, should any person enter into the property, then the previously mentioned section applies. The fifth question is, should your neighbor sexually harass people in your household? What would be your next course of action? In case a neighbor attacks any of your family members by way of sexually harassing them, the affected member can call the police immediately, and the police will definitely do their part in resolving this issue. Finally, if your neighbor has parked his car which is broken down or rusted or unused for many years in a common area in your apartment, then what is your course of action? This usually happens in an apartment where a neighbor parks and abandons his car in a common area, and usually the car begins to rot and inconvenience other families in the apartment, which is also poses as a health hazard. The procedure for removing the car is, first, report the issue to the management committee. Secondly, the committee should meet the person causing the nuisance and inform them about the societal rules for parking their car. Third, inform the person by issuing a legal notice that the car needs to be towed away as it is causing health issues to the other residents. And fourth, inform the police to address this issue with the person concerned. Finally, inform the corporation or municipality to remove the vehicle from the apartment. Harassment has become a common issue in India, and if you have ever been harassed in some way by your neighbor, I hope you can legally approach this issue to ensure your safety and the safety of your family members. The rule of law has to be upheld, and any person cannot take law into their own hands to inflict pain, suffering on others. I am sure after watching this video, you will know what to do if you are faced with such a situation. Well, if you like my video, do hit the like button, which will give me support to create newer videos like this and around important topics that can be explained in a simple and it can also benefit all of us as a community. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until the next video, take care. Bye-bye.